In our last video, we made a cellular texture that had cells with different sizes, and today we're going to take that texture and make it a little more interesting for the case of like landscapes and that sort of thing. So as you can see here, we have our landscape, and I'm just running it through the 3D designer, changing the lighting so we can see it a little more dynamically. But anyways, that is what we've arrived at, and I'm just going to go show you what I did to that cellular texture. Let me back up a little bit. Here's our cellular texture. Actually, it looked like this when I used the distance transform on that filter, and then I inverted it. But I'm going to work on it inverted for now, or not inverted for now, because it's a little brighter, a little easier to see. So in my spare image, I have a plasma noise. And let's see, if I just use a normal black and white plasma noise, when we went to do our displacement, we would just get displacement in, let's see, displace by swap. We'd get displacement in one direction. That's because it's using the X and the Y, or the red and the green as the X and the Y displacement. And since they're both the same, the red and the blue are equal. It's only displacing in one direction, so I'm going to not do it that way. I'm going to go ahead and use a render plasma noise. Change this to RGB. There's some other options in there for as well, but I'll go ahead and do that. You can change any of this. It doesn't have to be a noise, plasma noise. It can be any of the noises. You want to use, just make sure you have at least the red and green channel are different. So, and we can talk about how we can do that with some of the other textures generating filters as well. But let's go ahead and do this. Hit render displace, and now you'll see that it's properly displacing in both directions, X and Y. All right, so we don't want to do it too much, or it's just going to look like some marble or something. I don't know. We just want to do it a little bit, so it just looks like it has a little variation in it. I'll go ahead and invert this. As you can see, it's a little dark there. That's why I was working with it inverted. But I'm going to go to let's see, 3D designer, and you see that's what we've done. We've created a much more interesting looking, more realistic landscape texture by using one, a cellular texture that has cells with different sizes, and two, by displacing it slightly with a noise texture. So that's about it. And I said I was going to talk about how to how to render some of these textures, like the noise, maybe noise tool, how to render them with RGB as well, or at least something different in the red and green channels. So let's say we want to use this, but we want it to be in multiple colors. That's not too hard to do. I'm just going to go ahead and use that, hit OK. I'm going to go here to image and channels. I'm going to keep the channel 1 as it is, red channel as it is. I'm going to go to channel 2. I'm going to render a new noise texture. I was using the noise tool, and all we really need to do is like shift this somewhat. Might change some other attributes of it, but just as long as it's different than the first. There's a lot of things we could do to that, you know, introduce some other noises and that kind of thing, but you get the idea. And now when I show all of these, we'll have those two different channels. I'll go ahead and do a third one just to demonstrate, but we don't actually need the third channel for 2D displacement. That should be okay. There you go. And we've just created a plasma noise, just like we had done before, but using a different noise. And you can do this with any of the any of the things. Whirly noise. Whirly noise can be quite interesting as a displacement map. But let's go ahead and use this one. And see how that displaces. Okay, so still a lot of things you can do with that. You can like fade it out, that kind of thing. Give it more variation. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's getting a bit busy, but I think you get the idea anyways. And one thing I forgot to do was to invert that, so it was kind of the low areas were raised and the high areas were recessed. So, all right, so there you go. That is some basics of creating landscapes. One other thing I would like to talk about is, say you want to like some little stones or something on this texture that look like they're not part of the landscape, but they're sitting on top of the landscape. One way you can do that is with like a Boolean, like add them or subtract them without really affecting the rest of the texture. And you can do that in Howler really easily. I'm going to go here, just render some kind of texture. Yeah, plasma noise is fine. I'll just use red, green, blue, no, two-tone. Make the scale smaller so they look like small stones. Hit OK. And I don't want it uniform, so I'm going to do one other thing to this. I'm going to render another plasma noise on top of it, and I'll make it either subtractive or multiply mode or something. And just do that, so that way we have some variation in our stones. If you see what I did there. And I don't want these fully bright. I'm going to... Actually, I think it'd be easier to do this with a layer, so I'm going to store a copy of this. Sorry, my voice is kind of going out. But I'm going to go back to our original there. I'm going to go to here. And I'm going to add that to the layer. And I'm going to go to the layer mode and change it to greater than. I think we have greater than in here. Yeah, greater than. Now you see this is kind of added to our texture, but the parts that are lower are dropped out and replaced with the original landscape. And I can adjust the value of this to change how much of those rocks are showing. So adjust value. And we can take it all the way down and you won't see the rocks at all. Or if you just want a little bit of the rocks popping through, you can bring it up a bit. That should be enough, maybe a little bit more. Right there. Hit OK. Don't want to do it too much or these rocks will be as tall as these mountains here. But let's merge these on the layer panel. Go to Filter Transform, 3D Designer. And yeah, like I said, they can get tall fast, but you get the idea. We have the original landscape, and we've added all these little features to it. So I think that would have been more impressive had I actually not made them that tall. So let me get a copy of that back up to our landscape if we can find it. Whoops, right there. Add the layer again. Go back here. Add my rocks. I do what I did before. Greater than. And I'm going to change the just brightness value. Bring it down a little bit more so I can barely see them. I put the brightness up just a tad. Anyway, you can play with this until you get it just where you want it. Okay, let's see how that works. It can be a little tricky to get them just right, but yeah, there you go. So, yeah, we've added all these little rock-like features that look like they're not part of the landscape, that they're sitting on top of the landscape. That's sort of a Boolean that we've done. We could have done the same thing with a less than instead of greater than, and we could have like subtracted things to make like pits. Or you could do both. You could make pits and rocks sitting on top of it. So those are just a few things you can try out. That's about it for now. Thanks for watching, and talk to you later.